Sit back, folks. Pour yourself a cup of coffee. This shouldn't take too long. I'm going to tell you the story of the Glass Cowboy. You see, in 1979, I was with the Yippies. We were protesting and marching. We had fought against that war. I mean the Vietnam War. For over 10 years. Well, along about 1979, Dana Beal, who regarded himself as the head of the Yippies, decided that he wanted to do a rematch in Chicago of the 1969 police riots. He figured 79, this time we'd get away with it. He didn't remember and wasn't there for the violence that was experienced in 69. Anyway, there we were in Lincoln Park. We had already vowed that we were going to stay up past the mayor's orders to clear the park by 11. We had about 500 diehards there. We'd had closer to 10 or 12,000 people during the day. We had multiple bands and speakers of various kinds. It was getting on until about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's getting dark. And I was doing patrol around the ring, and it was just walking past Chicago cops who were ringed all around us, filling the woods, probably several hundred of them. And as everybody knows, this whole Black Lives Matter, how they shoot black people, this has been going on for a long, long time. And Chicago cops are especially nice about that. Hating blacks, Latinos, and hippies and poor people equally. In fact, it was well known that most Chicago cops carry drop guns, which means if they shoot you, they have an extra gun that they can wrap your fingers around and claim that it was justified homicide. So anyway, I'm walking through the woods and it's filled with Chicago cops, and they're all holding their nightsticks and smiling at me like they're getting ready to bite into a big piece of meat. Because 11 o'clock's rolling around. You bet it is. And the crowd thins out, and this guy I knew named Cool Breeze, like his father called him that, handed me some acid. He said, "Here, have some microdot." And I said, "Okay, why not?" And I swallowed 2 of his little purple microdots. Well, about an hour later, it's getting up to 10 o'clock, and I'm lying on the grass above the band. The crowd's down to the hardcore now, like maybe a couple hundred people. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, this acid was a waste. I don't think I'm going to get off at all. When I happened to look over past the band, there was an orange pickup truck that someone had driven up, probably carrying band equipment. And sitting in the driver's seat of that pickup truck, wearing a giant glass sombrero, was a glass cowboy. And the moment I noticed him, he looked right at me, and he sent me a telepathic message. And this message was something to the effect of, there's going to be violence. They're determined to hurt people. But you can stop them. And how? How? Just take all your clothes off. No one can commit any acts of violence if there's naked people around. And if you're naked, they can't attack you. I thought about it for a minute. And after a while, I realized it made perfect sense. So there in the middle of Lincoln Park, at maybe 10:30, half an hour before curfew, I'm standing there naked, the only one there, against this hillside. Actually, there was one other guy, but he was nuts. I'm standing there naked, and I'm raising my arms, and I'm yelling out to people, "There need be no violence." I'm not sure they believe me. And along comes 11 o'clock, and this other guy who another one of the ones who proclaimed himself a leader of the Yippies, comes up to me and he says, "You see those guys next to the stage there?" And I looked, and much to my surprise, there looked to be about 7 or 8 really big, burly guys who were dressed like football players who had decided to be hippies tonight. Cowboy hat, leather vest, cowboy boots, whatever. But they were all like 7 feet tall, built like linebackers. He says, "See those guys? They're getting ready to rush the stage. I want you to get behind that guy, and when he jumps on the stage, you pull him off." So I went up and I stood behind this guy, and he turned around and he looked down at me. And I'm 6'1", and he looked down at me like he was trying to figure out which part to break off first. And I looked up at him and pretty much hoped it didn't come to that. Finally, 11 o'clock rolled around, and the cops did nothing. Absolutely nothing happened. So clearly, my plan had worked. And then I looked up on the stage, and I realized that what had been a tall, skinny, kinky-haired fellow working the microphone with the band was, in fact, now had somehow changed into Abbie Hoffman himself. And if you don't know much about history, in 1979, he was on the run for a huge cocaine bust. And knowing how our justice system works, he probably wouldn't have survived an arrest, being Abbie Hoffman and everything. But nonetheless, there he was, mouthing the words. And everyone else started to realize who it was up there, including the great big guys, who apparently were among... My guess is the great big guys were Abbie's bodyguard. And what's-his-name didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And us true believers, we gathered up next to the stage there, and Abbie got out these big fatties. Everybody was passing him fatties, and he was smoking them and passing them back. And that was the time I smoked pot with Abbie Hoffman. It's too bad we didn't get a chance to talk. And that was the story of the Glass Cowboy. The cops never did attack. Along about 1 o'clock, everybody got tired and went home. And Dana Beale, I don't know, faded off into the distance. There you go. True story.